Welcome to Tipping Spears with Hannah Becker. Today's conversation promises to be an insightful one with remarkable guests. And whether you're joining us for the first time or you're a regular listener, I'm so glad you're here. My goal is to bring you closer to the innovative leaders and thinkers shaping our future. And today I'm thrilled to welcome Colonel Brian Cook. Colonel Cook is a retired U.S. Army colonel. He's a soldier, a strategist, an author who led teams across 5 combat tours from Desert Storm to Afghanistan and spent 33 years serving in some of the most consequential environments on Earth. A West Point graduate with advanced degrees from the Naval War College at Carnegie Mellon University, he taught theater strategy at the Army War College, led Army Futures Command's first ever campaign planning effort, and spoke at South by Southwest. His national security writing has been published twice in expeditions with MCUP. He is also a certified heroic coach. Well, welcome to Tipping Spears, Brian.
That was a lot. Thank you so much for a great interview, and thanks for giving me some Hannah time. I have heard this is awesome, so I'm here to be part of it.
Well, can you start us off today with telling us where your story begins?
So the story begins in Claremont, California, where I grew up. I had an older brother. His name was Neil, and he went into West Point, and I thought that was really odd. He was a All-American football player and cool. I was young, at the time was 16, 17, somewhere in there. And I saw my brother really grab onto something that was way bigger than himself. And he had some troubles and didn't make it through. But that him going through the gates first gave me an idea of, oh, I could do that. And so it just totally excited me. I followed him into West Point, as you know, as you mentioned, right, and made it through. And it was really just one decision at a time as a young man, right? It's what we all dream our kids will do too.
Mhm. So what sparked your interest in serving in the military for 33 years? Not just your initial contract, but sticking around.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So initially, you got to think back a little bit, and I'm going to date myself here, but I initially wanted to be a helicopter pilot. And my dream was to fly for a couple years for the Army and then go out to Hawaii and fly like, tourist birds. And I just thought that would be amazing. But of course, then I got to West Point and you get exposed to the Army you don't know and the incredible culture and what it means to lead with character. And you're like, okay, now it's over. And although I did try to be a helicopter pilot, I was exposed to other parts of the Army that seemed to resonate with me more. First, I wanted to be a ranger, all the camo and, do that soft thing and, be face to face with my enemies. And then I was exposed to the M1 tank, and that ended it. Like I was out in the National Training Center at Fort Irwin, and I got introduced to live fire, M1, A1 tank live fire as a cadet from West Point on summer training. And I'll never forget it. It was it. And I went back and I said, how do I become the best tanker in the world? And it's very interesting. And then it's very interesting how the Army works. Most people don't really recognize we spent a lot of time in creating how the Army works as a leadership laboratory. I helped write some of the manuals in the Army in what's called DAMO-TR, the training office underneath the G3 of the Army. And what we really try to do here is take the hero's journey and apply it at scale. So first you come in as the hero and get a guide. And then, of course, you figure out it's a hero journey about the time that you become a guide. And then every time you switch a role, especially in command, you are a hero again. You're not the guide. And so you need a mentor. And so mentors become increasingly more important as you have to let go and let your teams lead rather than you leading. Tactical leaders are in the mud, in the decision. Well, General Milley, although he did like to go out in the mud, wasn't in the mud making decisions. He was delegating his guidance to the whole team when we were leading Afghanistan in that case.
Yeah. It's fascinating to think about it as kind of a hero's journey.
hmm Yeah, and I like to talk to young gentlemen. I was just talking to a 18-year-old at a coffee shop the other day, and he goes, "How did you know?" And I'm like, I didn't know.
Mhm.
I mean, now that I look back at it, I was looking for tribe and mission, but they didn't know. but speed is a force, right? If you're going to be someone, you've got to move in the right direction. We all know that. And so you're not, I mean, I don't think if there is a sure 18-year-olds out there somewhere, I'm proud of him or her, but you're not normal in my mind, so.
So was there a particular event or person that kind of served as a catalyst, for your own career journey?
Yeah, well, and I write about this in the book, in my acknowledgments. Look, it's never one person. There are some catalyst actions. Um, but it's like in my book of a life, there's chapters. Colonel Bill McLaughlin, the guy who put his hand on the middle of my back and told me, you speak like people on TV. You know, slow down and use big words and read some books. I'm like, he was the guy who got me the congressional interview and
Mhm.
thus, opened the door to West Point. Colonel John Tien, um, John Tien and I were taking a walk in Fort Irwin long ago, 2002. And I said, I'm considering just leaving this whole thing. And he stopped and he turned to me and looked me dead in the eye and he said, don't you ever say that to any other commissioned officer out there until you're absolutely ready to go. You can think about it all you want, but don't you say that. Um, Same unit, 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment. I was the operations officer that took the regiment back to combat, first time since Vietnam.
Oh, wow.
And we got a brand new regimental commander. His name was Pete Barry, rose to rank a two-star general. And Pete, we were running at full speed, and I was still taking master's classes while we were planning to go to Iraqi Freedom 3. And I just dropped off a briefing for him. He was going to brief the Army Science Board in the morning. And so I dropped this briefing off for him, said, sure, make any notes. I'll make any changes when I get back from class. I turned around to leave his office. He goes, stop a second. And I was like, he goes, you're going to class? I'm like, yes, sir. I'm getting my master's in XYZ. And he says, look, you're going to choose between your family and sleep by the time we get on that bird. I don't think school is going to be important. And I was like, there were a couple more words traded, but I went down to class. I pulled my teacher off the side, said, I'm not doing this. And that me a lot more time that I didn't know I was going to need to have, but I did need to have. Um, and then Major General retired Bill Rapp was the commandant of the War College when I managed the Army training budget. And he took a chance on me to come up and be his G3 to help manage his budget and really just kind of synchronize what the War College was. And then after about a year, I'm in his office after a morning stand up. You probably know what these things are, right? 15
Mhm.
minutes, stand up in front of the boss, tell him everything he needs to know for the day and what happened last night, and then get off to work. Well, we're in stand up and he goes, Brian, hold on. And I was like, what did I do wrong? There it goes, right? And he says, Bry, look, you need to clear your office. You're no longer going to be the G3. I'm going to replace you with this guy. And because you just have a lot in your head that you could teach to other guys and gals. And I want you to be on the faculty. And I was like, I didn't see it coming. But that opportunity to teach the Army about the Army was magical. I mean, just incredible. So those are the biggers. We like to say you rise on shoulders of giants. I've had a lot of giants in my life, and what most people don't say after they say giants is they chose us. They chose to invest in us and take a chance on us, and that's all we can ask in this good Lord's word. Yeah, it's like super incredible.
So I know, every journey has its hurdles. What are some of the biggest obstacles that you faced in your career and, how did you overcome them?
Um, I'm not your regular guy. I'm not the below the zone run at full speed, maybe son of a general that gets all the wingdings along the way. I'm not that guy. I'm not. I'm just the hard charging, sometimes a little bit over my skis type of guy. So when I came back from Turkish CGSC as a graduate, I got passed over for RCGSC. And Turkish didn't count but we think the board thought it counted. So I got passed over for CGSC in the middle of a war when I was a major. If you don't make first look CGSC, the yellow brick road is disrupted. And so I was like, uh-oh. We got through that and went out to 11th ACR, did it non-resident, became the OPSO, the S3 of the regiment. I think I did pretty well. But then battalion command comes up, first battalion command list. I'm on the alternate list. And I'm like, okay. I mean, by this time I have 2 Bronze Stars. And I think I was doing it pretty good. I'm like, how the heck? So I get activated off the alternate list. And then I was told to stay where I was at. One of my other mentors, General James Terry, kept me in the Army Evaluation Task Force because I was already the G3 of the brigade or S3 of the brigade. And so it made sense for me to hang on. So it was cool because I didn't have to PCS to command. Um, I lost my last shot at brigade command because someone made a mistake with an OER. In combat, you used to be able to submit OERs on PDF. And somebody decided to change a 1 block to a 2 block when I was the G35 for 3rd Corps, my very first 06 OER. And now I had that OER changed later, luckily. But when in that act of trying to get it fixed, my third look at brigade command, I was alternate list twice. The third look at brigade command went by, and I wasn't even on the list because I had a 2 block. And that you're as a full bird colonel, you're not commanding if you have a 2 block, unless somebody knows something I don't know. And then lastly, 4 cardiac arrests. So I died first in 2015. We thought I was flashing a pan. I did it 3 more times in 2018. Not trying to use that as a trophy. Third time in front of my daughter, who was 8. And I write in the book, death has a way of allowing you to think deeper about who you are and what you're supposed to be than anything else. And on the first 2, look, I just reached out to my network, my mentors, and said, please help me. I have no idea what's going on with this. And in the armor community, we are experts at this. I don't know any branch that does it better. Mentors grab you by the scruff of your neck. They dust you off, tell you that you're terrific anyway. Just because you have a problem doesn't mean you are a problem. And they find you a way around whatever 3-foot wall that's in your way. But the heart attacks were different. Like yeah. I mean, you're not in control. I tell people this, and there's no warning, you're gonna die. And most of the time, I come back to actually all but the last one. I come back to, and I didn't know I was dead. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. And so, well, the third one, or the last one, they killed me in a hospital. So I woke up and the nurse was on top of me, giving me compressions and yelling my name. But I just thought at the time I was going to do what I did the other times, right? Just keep going, reach out to my network. We'll figure this out. When I died in front of my daughter, that's what I did. And that's how I met Dr. Atta Bafar out in the Mayo Clinic. And he looked at my record and said, you need a pacemaker. And that was calming and scary at the same time, but okay, let's put the chip in the chest. But so I think I got through that, what I would say, kind of existential problem. But then the Army called me and said, your career's done. And that's where you have to grasp the situation with a different handle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, major medical stuff, especially if it comes out of left field like this. You're not 80 years old. You're not in a retirement community, and this is
I would,
happening.
yeah, I was 50. I was 50
Wow.
when well, the last time I flatlined. I was
Yeah.
like 38 when I first flatlined.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a wake up call like nothing else.
Hmm.
It changes everything. I always thought I had some stuff, my husband had some stuff, and it was like when that's over, I would tell myself, okay, we're going to go back to normal. I'm going to feel like normal. I'm going to be back to normal. We're going to be doing normal things. And yeah, well, you're smiling because you've probably done the same thing. And then
Yep.
you get on the other side of that, and it's like, oh no, it's a total
Well,
paradigm change.
I think there's some value there, though. Think it of as a new normal, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm not mad about. I was mad about the first time I died, and I'm not.
yeah,
I wasn't. I was mad about how the army, gave me the boot,
yeah,
but what you end up doing is going through a hard time and getting, walking through fire only emboldens you. I mean, the
that's
boldness
true.
has to come through unless you're just going to, take it, which none of
Yeah,
us have been trained to take it.
yeah.
It's not a good word. So,
That's true, especially
yeah,
not a tanker.
that's right. Yeah. Well, we're going to unfold this problem, I bet you, in this conversation. Think about what you just said. You can't be vulnerable and be a colonel in armor.
Yep, yep.
I don't think that should be true. I think that should be a little bit different.
It's true. Oh. So, Brian, you served everywhere from tank platoons, combat formations, Pentagon, Army futures. When you look across your career, what experiences do you think shaped you most as a leader? What were your kind of big takeaways?
Um, well, tank platoon leadership in Desert Storm. So, my dad wrote me a letter when I was in Desert Storm, and he said, pay attention to what your leaders are doing. I kept a journal the whole time I was in Desert Storm. It was actually my first book. I didn't publish it. It's sitting in typecast. But so I was often looking at the battalion commanders, General Marlin, and others, or Colonel Marlin and others, and just trying to figure out what are they dealing with.
Mhm.
And if you can ever stop and pause and look north, you have this admiration for the leaders that are above you of the breadth of things they have to do. So I think that was the big one. Uh, we mentioned operations officer in Black Horse, just an honor. Um, but as a planner and as a like a well, let's as a normal person, you don't think how deep and long these plans are. But when we sat in the plan shop, Chris Faber and Brother Robertson and I sat quietly in the plan shop at Black Horse. What's the end of a campaign of a combat tour? It's the moment the families are cheering, you getting off the plane and all that's happening. That's the end. So take that as your end state and backwards plan. And when we first did this, we just got the order from Forcecom on Sipper, a secret order.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, breathe deep. Can I go get an energy drink? Here we go. And so, but that depth and complexity of three squadrons going into combat was eye-opening. But as you know, right, delegation is the tool of great leaders. To accurately delegate and then hold people accountable when you do it right, wrong, and indifferent. That's the mark of a great leader. And of course, do it with your character and values intact. That's a huge stand up. And then we talked about faculty at Army War College, being a bridge for the future leaders, giving of yourself rather than being egotistical and like, I should be a brigade commander. I'm good enough to teach at the War College. Okay, yeah, ego's the enemy. Battalion command was the most valuable because you get all this tactical, operational, you could say a little bit strategic as you're developing, leaders for the future. And we were in the future combat system, which unfortunately failed, but we were thinking out, 10, 15 years in the future. And to ask the second lieutenants and first lieutenants and sergeant first classes, what do you think? And have them look at me like, why would you care what I think? Because you don't think like me. And any great situation is a multiplicity of perspectives brought to convergence to synchronize over time and space. Now I'm talking like a planner. But uh, when I was in command, it was mine. Like this beautiful mess was, Courage Battalion was my mess. And oftentimes it was, but oftentimes it was brilliant. And I had like people come up to me and go, "How do you do that?" And I'm like, I don't know yet. Like I'm still keeping notes. That's the best thing about battalion command. But yeah, leadership becomes multiplication, not addition, right?
Mhm.
You create a network, and then network begins to take your good things away from you, hopefully, and put those into the universe. And sooner or later, you walk around and go, "Whoa, I know that guy." Like the current chief of plans was my scout platoon leader at Army Futures Command.
Wow.
It not so he was in my battalion. He's my scout platoon leader. Now today, the chief of plans is what he does. And it's like, oh, it warms my heart.
Oh. So you spent, a significant portion of your career, operating these high pressure, high stakes environments. A lot of consequences that could happen there. What did you learn about how you make decisions when there's really not, all the info that you need to be 100%, certain that you're making the right decision?
Yeah, this is super difficult. It's actually super difficult to explain.
Uh,
Um, I've read a whole lot of Eisenhower, and Eisenhower was a huge study of former leaders. And so
mhm.
when he got in big stakes engagements, he knew what to pull on as levers in his own self to think about, present, and even give guidance. So that's where I come from. But Clausewitz has this thing called kudoi, the inward eye, and it is the ability to grasp the situation at a glance. And Eisenhower would tell you you do that by reading history, but yet having the clarity of the environment you're sitting in. So oftentimes I'll think about Epictetus or Marcus Aurelius or I don't know, even Machiavelli at times, and apply it to today. And that gives me the ability to know I'm already right because the pattern's been showing. I mean, you could look at the American tragedy that's going on right now and compare it to the Odyssey, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty close. You know what I mean? And that's exactly um I'm I cheat here. I'm married to a cognitive scientist, PhD. And so she tells me, look, all good decision making is pattern recognition at speed, scope, and scale.
Mhm.
And so think about that. It's all you have to get comfortable making a decision. If you're uncomfortable making a decision, I hate to tell you, but it's probably because you didn't do your homework. And that may be your fault, your staff's fault, but look, do your homework and you should have kudos and be, oh, I'm pretty sure I know what to do here. Come here, two, come here, three, bam, and get to the solution. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a really interesting, it's a very enlightening take on it, Brian. Yeah,
Thank you.
it is.
Well, here's the other thing. You don't build it under load. Most
Yeah,
people think like if I get to combat, I'll get this great.
yeah,
I used to say kudoi. When I first read that, it scared the living out of me.
yeah,
I was like, oh my God, I will never have that. Like when I was a
yeah.
captain. But then what happened was I was introduced by my mentors and schooling, right, to all
Mhm,
these great leaders.
mhm,
Like if you have never read Thucydides, the landmark
mhm.
Thucydides, um, first of all, I'm going to warn you, it's very hard to read, but it is a blessing in disguise. And once you understand that fear, honor, and interest are the drivers of all things in society, especially warring societies, you will see things differently. And that seeing things differently at scale is what's going to make great decisions.
I like that.
You're
I
like,
remember that. It's interesting. So, talk to us about identity collapse.
mm,
So, what did you feel, think, learn, experience retiring from the army?
yeah, it's just and I hate to make it so negative, right? Collapse is such a negative word. I wish there's a better word for it, but it's actually what most people say when they say this happens. So take me, 18-year-old, hard charging, all American water polo player, fit, patriotic young man, and I go 33 years in this thing.
Mhm.
It is me. Like people used to ask me, what do you think you should be in the army? And I would say, I don't know. God's got a plan. Maybe I'll be a general. I was very close, and there are
Mhm.
lots of reasons why Brian Cook wasn't a general. So I won't belabor that. But think about how I let the army set my table,
Mhm.
and then I went all in
Mhm.
because that's how you lead. You're all in. You can't not want to be in the army and be a good battalion commander. I'm sorry, you can't. Don't take the guide on if you don't think you can be a great commander. Period, full stop. And so I was all in. And by the way, obviously, we've talked about this already, setting an example for other leaders. Got to the war college, slowed down, and my body said, we don't like this. Every time I was compromises what my brain probably says, it just flatlined me. So when that happened and I got told that I wasn't going to have a career in the army anymore, I had a decision either to try to be who I was all along, right? That guy the army set the table for, and hang on to the uniform and all that. Not that I haven't, like you introduced me as Colonel Retired Brian Cook. Um, or to take that as the first chapter and the ramp for the next mountain. Let's go. And I didn't really see it as that first time I died, but after the army said it's over, I had to, like, you just have to have a reckoning. Yeah, I find quiet time. As most people know, I'm a meditator. I do about 20 minutes of meditation a day. And when you sit with your nasty bouncing around thoughts and slow down, I figured out uh after all the reps of deciding being wrong and adjusting is just the way we are. And so I had to figure out who Brian was going to be without the uniform on. Um, and by the way, that's exactly where the book was born. Like
Oh.
that's where it came from. So I I had this conversation yesterday. I actually am pretty happy with what happened in the army. And people were like, "What?"
Sometimes time has to pass,
That's
for you to
right.
get that perspective.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you describe it so well. And, it's in life, especially if it's something that you've, given your all for. You've been so
That's
committed,
right.
so in,
Yeah.
and
Well, like
then,
I'm
yeah.
100% VA disabled, and they only
Mhm.
gave me 10% for the pacemaker.
Yeah.
So guess what? I've got a lot of bumps and bruises and rebuilds, but boy, was it fun. I mean, somebody
Yeah,
said you should get to the finish line in life skidding in on your back tire, all
that's
covered
true.
in dust and sweat. That's exactly who I want to be.
That's true. Living life to the fullest, not to make a pretty corpse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so can you tell us, about the book,
Mm.
um, kind of how that came to be and what, what, kind of key takeaways are from the book?
Oh, okay. So setting the table came to be with a guy named Eric Keister. He runs manuscripts publishing. He and I had this conversation, and he put me, in a play acting role. And he said, "Get on a stage. You're teaching, 100, 200 people what leadership is, and just don't overthink it. Just go on a roll." And so I breathed deeply, and he just stepped back. And at the end of it, he goes, "Do you know what you keep saying?" And I said, "No, I mean, I know what my mannerisms are and how I
Mhm.
think about things, but I don't know, no." And he goes, "You keep saying set your table." And he just said that's the book. And while we're sitting there on this conference, he goes into the interwebs and checks that nobody has a copyright on Set Your Table, which nobody did. So it was not just part of me, it was available. So that's how the book came about. Um, but then the parable, the story that's within the story, you either set your table or somebody else will. And when you do that, you get visitors that you don't want to be with, right? You may come away hungry. You may drink too much beer. There's all kinds of things that can go wrong if you're at the wrong table and you didn't set yourself up. And so I use that parody or that parable to have three steps. I say, find your table, build your table, and set your table. So find your table is to align yourself to your values that are naturally inside you. There's a way to do that. It's very simple. The website's called viacharacter.org. But virtues in action is what they call it. Same thing used by the Travis Manion Foundation, by the way. Hat tip to them. And then once you have your values in line, I want you working on foundations because anything great has a great foundation. Period. Full stop. Go look at West Point. It's built into a hillside. You know what I mean? It's not. It's not kind of just thrown. It's not a couple shacks. That thing's rock solid, right? So foundations give us that comfort to be able to go farther and faster than we thought we ever could, which is actually the secret. But sleep, move, eat, breathe, and focus are my five foundations. I teach those. And then set your table is it's compounding. So teach you to set your own table, set your relational table, set your professional table, and then the big one, set your community table, which is what I'm speaking on most these days because people believe that our communities are broken. And I'm just saying, no, I think our communities just need great leaders. Like James Tallarico, not to get political, but James Tallarico is a leader, and you see these people come into my community. I'm like, huh, I could be that. I mean, not, I don't want to run for a Democratic office. I'm just saying I could be that because I just need a couple, this, it's compounding. If you have a battalion command and you have two bad company commanders and two good company commanders, who are you working on? You're working on the two bad ones. And I'm
Mhm.
sorry. I'm going to gather the two good ones and go, all right, you guys are my princes. I'm the king. We're going to develop the servants. Let's go. And people just don't get it. And then I do it with three processes that we've already touched on. Clausewitz is the number
Mhm.
one. Clausewitz's clarity comes through. Know what matters. That's the biggest mystery every day, every moment. Know what matters. The second is execution, show up, compound, and I'm sorry, the second is positioning, shape the conditions. This is where you get to be clever. You get to decide who you are and where your values fit, shape the conditions so you know whatever you do is going to get you to that end state you want without question. It's undeniable. Success is coming. And that's why people like me, like I got thrown on teams that I had no business running an $18 billion budget in the Army. But General Grigsby knew me as a winner and said, when I came home from Afghanistan, come be on my team. Because that's how that works, right? That's leadership in action. And then the last thing is execution. And anybody is anybody knows. Show up, compound it, repeat. Right? Know your game, teach to others, repeat. Seek excellence. And it's compounding because anytime I can give wisdom to somebody else, like we're doing right here, what are you doing? We're compounding the value of what we're thinking about. Am I always right? No, I'm not always right. But the big value here is that you're nourishing others and their ideas. That's how it works. And so that's it in about, I guess that was like 3 minutes. But it's, find your table, build your table, set your table, and hopefully you want to get to an integrated life. Little secret here, it's never going to be perfect. Stay with that. You're going to get you're going to get thrown things that you're going to like when I was a chief of plans at Army Futures Command, people were like, Brian, that's the job, go, man. And I was so happy. But you know how much when you make that impact, sooner or later somebody's coming after you. And I
Mhm.
was uh and we won't talk about it deeply here, but I was attacked. Whenever you make a crater, like like Steve Jobs used to say, like make a crater in your community and just make it obvious that you're impactful. Someone's gonna come and get you. I'm just gonna tell you, out of sheer jealousy, and it's nasty, but get ready. That's what the Stoic gods called you to do. You know, it's good. That's why we train.
So if you could sit down with a leader who's successful, they did all the things, but they're so burned out, what would you tell them to do first?
Uh, okay, so all my guys and gals, I've coached a good number now. All of them are not sleeping. Sleep is number one, almost everywhere. And I get this question like, how much do I sleep? And I said, well, let's make sure we get this right. How many hours do you need to be in bed? Because so I'm not a good sleeper. I have a pacemaker that affects things, right? And so I sleep at about 72% efficiency. So to get 6.5, I need 8.5 with my head on the pillow. Now if you believe it's the foundation of your health and you want to show up the best person possible, you have the ability to shape time and space after dinner. You just do. Most people, that's where we go brainless, right? We eat dinner, we do the dishes with the fam, and then it's Netflix or flipping on, and then we just pull the covers over. Be intentful in that space, just like when you're at stand up with the general, right? Just the same way. Take that intensity, the same intensity there. You don't have to be intense in your body. You just need to be intentful with your actions. So for me, just give you an example. I eat dinner 2 hours before I go to sleep. 30 minutes later, I'm off of all screens. 30 minutes later, I'm in a warm sauna bag. It's very cool. And then I oftentimes read a fiction book just to calm my brain down. And I take a supplement called magnesium threonate. It's just works for me. It may not work for everybody, but it makes me stop going through my checklists that are always going in my head. And then, and by the way, create your space. Be be respectful to your body and your mind. Create a space where sleep happens almost naturally. Cold, dark, right? No sounds, no cell phone. Do not have a cell phone in your bedroom. Don't. It's proven science. If the cell phone's near you, it's affecting you. They designed it that way. Stop it. Just get it out of the room. So I give that to someone. I say, sleep one more hour for the next week, every night. And on Friday, let's have a conversation. And ask me, and I'll ask you, how do you feel? I've never had anybody say anything but, dang, this is amazing. And then look, now we have a standing, right? You've been successful at something. Now just rock. And the core thesis is set your table where someone else will. That's what they're at. You're burned out because you're just trying too hard. It's not that you aren't talented. You are worthy of the challenge. The methods just aren't working. And I lived that. I mean, I was a big corporate dude with a title and a big paycheck. And I decided I don't need that to feel like I'm a successful human being. So that's where I start. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's a great that's really good insight, Brian. I think people so many times they find themselves kind of on a treadmill. They're not really sure how they got on there, how to get off,
Right.
what to do next.
That's right. Well, you're allowed to be on the treadmill. I don't want to
Yeah.
tell people like I do not like the word hustle.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just bad, right?
Yeah.
Look, you cannot uh you can't shame me. You can't blame and
Hmm.
shame me that I have not worked hard enough. I'm sorry. I will use
Hmm.
expletives and
Hmm.
sit you down if you try to tell me that I haven't gone hard enough. But
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you going hard is not gonna win. Like I tell people I'm not the battle, I'm the war. So
Hmm.
you can win the battle and lose the war. Look at
Hmm.
Iran right now.
Yeah.
But if you know where you're headed, if you know what the war's end state, the theory of victory is, you can say no to battles, which is the sleep battle is a good example, right? Why am I
Mhm.
going to stay up 3 extra hours to get 20 good minutes of work in? No, just go to sleep. Please go to sleep. You know?
Yeah.
And then eat good. Eat's the next step. And a lot of us are doing that wrong too, me included on some days. We're all faulty. I live in Austin. There's so much good food here.
Yeah, foodie haven down there.
Yeah, that's right. Super hard to behave.
So what career advice do you have for the next generation who are interested in serving our country?
First of all, if you're interested in serving this great nation, please come. We need great leaders, and we will make it so. The Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marines, the Space Command guys. We develop leaders as the basis of our success. General Odierno, the late General Odierno, his number one priority was leader development. And he often got asked why. If you don't have leaders, are you ever going to win? No. So he just, reverse engineered it for us. But to be a leader, you need to have intellectual courage. And I like to break that down. And hats off to Chris Kalenda, Colonel retired Chris Kalenda, a good friend of mine, who introduced me to intellectual courage. But look, you need to know something that you stand for. Let's do Constitution, right? I believe the Constitution is the center of gravity of this great nation. Okay? So know that deeply. Don't just say that. If I think it's the center of gravity of the Constitution, I better know the difference between the 14th and the 17th Amendment, right? Okay, let's do that. So know it deeply. And then I like to take that next step. Go to the strongest argument you'd ever hear that says the Constitution is not the center of gravity of the United States of America. It's actually patriotism and people that are loyal to the president. Get the best guy in the world or listen to that podcast and hear what that guy's saying and get his discussion or defense, right? And know how to defend against that. Like, know all of it, know all perspectives that could undermine your belief. If not, it's not a good belief to have. My uncle taught me this using Shakespeare. If you ever want to know something well, study it deeply and then defend it. And that's what we do in the military. I think a lot of us know, right? Our oath to the Constitution is it's the critical capability of our military in my mind. And I know there's a lot of other people that have written on this. So that intellectual courage, I need you to have, and it doesn't have to be the Constitution. It could be, I'm an armor guy. The armor branch is the best branch in the United States Army. I can defend that left, right, and center. And I have. And like a lot of infantrymen are like, why do you wear that Stetson? All right. You don't like tradition? I mean, that beret thing you wear down in the 18th Airborne Corps, that's not important to you? So let's stop with the headgear stuff. Let's stop there. Let's go somewhere else. What else don't you like? I move at 60 miles an hour and blow stuff up so that you can walk at 5 miles an hour and still have an impact. You know, it's that. You could see my methodology by my body, like my facial and my body expressions. I get so excited. But yeah, it takes spine rather than like blind certainty to defend something. And that's what our next generations need to carry. This country is going to be great forever. There's no make America great again. It's always great. It is within us. My boys, I have 2 sons and 2 daughters and 2 granddaughters. All my kids know that in their hearts, this is a great country. Yes, we make mistakes. And I mean, you don't have to go far in the history book to know that. But we are a great country because we don't live with an oath to the king. We live an oath to the Constitution. And I just love that. And I love that, a young man or woman is going to step up and be a part of it.
Well, Brian, any parting thoughts or final words of advice for the audience today?
I love this conversation. But the one thing that most people are lacking, they need to know you are worth it. Believe in yourself. The first step is never believable, right? No one else is going to believe in you until you believe in yourself. So let's go. Like, stay in the fight, set your table, and take the step.
Good words of advice.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Brian, for coming on here, sharing your insights and your experiences. I know your contributions to our nation have impacted so many, and I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation.
Yeah, totally enjoyed it. Thanks again.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Tipping Spears. I hope this conversation has sparked new ideas and challenged the way you think. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, and we'll catch you next time with another exciting guest.